Good morning. This podcast is more a spoken one. You're just going to stare at that picture of a horse there. I wanted to talk about a horse that I met yesterday and something that I had said to the woman who had contacted me to help with ground manners. The horse is a dressage horse. She understands what is expected of her under saddle, but she lacks ground manners, and one of the specific ground manners is personal space. I had said something that I wanted to clarify. Actually, I said three things that I want to explain. One of the things was when I tell somebody your horse has no use for you, I don't mean that like your horse dislikes you, your horse has distaste for you, or anything like that. What I mean by your horse has no use for you, it's kind of like going into somebody's mechanical shop and looking around at all the different tools and knowing that those tools are good for something and have a purpose, but you don't know what their purpose is. Therefore, you have no use for those tools. That's what I mean when I say your horse has no use for humans. Your horse just doesn't understand your role in their life other than to transport them from their stall to their paddock or from their paddock to their stall. They, generally speaking, don't have a clue what your role is in their life. That's what I mean when I say a horse has no use for you. The other thing that I had said was that I need owners to participate in their lessons, because I can work on something with your horse and get it solid between your horse and I. And since my work is very relationship based, I develop a relationship with your horse. Therefore, the communication is clear and the relationship has a level of respect between me and the horse. But when I hand the horse back to the owner, I kind of describe it as like an umbilical cord. The horse is calm, low-headed, slow blinking, almost asleep when I'm done with them. And then I hand the horse back to the owner, and it's like as soon as that rope leaves my hand and gets into the hand of the owner, the horse starts becoming more alive. The horse turns into, the best analogy I can come up with, whether it was you or you've witnessed it, is in a classroom where there's a kid sitting behind another kid, and the kid behind the kid, that's kind of weirdly said. There's two children, one in front of the other, and when the kid in the back wants to be a pest, they, pull on the other kid's hair, they push their books into their back, they tap their pencil on the back of their chair, they poke them in the back with the pencil, kick their bottom of their chair, like just kind of fidgety, and with the intention of pushing the buttons of the kid in front of them. That's what I usually equate a relationship that I watch with a horse and an owner. If there's lack of relationship, I watch the horse. As soon as the rope leaves my hand and goes into the hand of the owner, the horse becomes the kid in the back seat. I can't fix that if I'm not working with the owner. I can't help the relationship get developed between the owner and the horse if I'm doing the work and establishing the relationship with the horse myself. So it's important that I work with the owners. The other thing that I had said in advance was your horse will start to yawn. And to me, that's my feedback. When a horse yawns, it's an extreme letdown. And often it means that even though it looked like I did nothing with this horse, I mean, it was in slow motion what I did with this horse, but when I was done, I had already said that this was going to happen. When I was done, the horse began to yawn. And when she yawned, I told the owner, which was actually not the owner, she's just tending to the horse. I told her that this horse will start to yawn. And when she did start to yawn, she yawned like 4 or 5 times before I said, oh, she's going to yawn, 10, 20, as many as 100 times. And that's my feedback. That tells me that I was in your horse's brain, tinkering around, and doing some stuff that your horse actually needed to process. Since it's a letdown, it also lets us know that what we were working on had a level of stress or a level of wow to the horse, like, wow, that was interesting, kind of like, shake your head like, what just happened? And it's a very, very positive thing. I think people think when horses yawn, they think that it's the horse is bored or, or tired or whatever. But when your horse yawns after a training session, if it was a good training session, your horse will yawn. And I always want to make sure that I watch for that. And it's a positive, very positive feedback. So those are the couple things that I wanted to talk about in what I do in an evaluation. When I do an evaluation, I also don't do much. I get the horse thinking about their feet. I teach them the very first thing they need to understand with me is how to back up. My backup means so many things because I execute my backup with a wiggle on the rope cue. And when I wiggle on the rope, it means, let's start with canter. It means canter downward transition to a trot, downward transition to a walk, downward transition to a halt, downward transition to a backup. It means you're not paying attention. Excuse me, I'm talking to you. It means no, wrong answer. It means, don't move your feet. It means do this, but don't go forward. There's a lot of communication that's had through this wiggle of the rope. So I use the wiggle of the rope for as one of the first things that I work on with a horse. This horse took a long time to figure that out. And horses that struggle with the backup are horses that are generally very dominant horses that don't believe that they should be the ones moving their feet. In the dominance or the hierarchy of a herd, if they're the dominant horse, they're not likely to move their feet unless they're telling another horse to get out of their way. They would never allow another horse to push them around. So standing kind of their ground is a common sight when you're working with a dominant horse. So I didn't want to upset her. I understood that she was a buddy sour. And I had her focus, so I was making sure that I didn't upset her enough to where where's my buddy became almost like a pacifying need. So I made sure that I stayed in a low key because she was offering me low key. So I worked on the backup. I got her to understand what I wanted, but I didn't take it much farther than just a few steps. And then I worked on asking her to cross her front feet over, which is what I call a turn signal. When you're leading a horse, instead of grabbing them on the snap and pulling their nose from underneath of them in the opposite direction. So now you're almost under the horse trying to get the horse to turn opposite of you. Instead, stay in your position and just offer them kind of like a polite karate chop looking thing towards the nose piece of their halter or the nose piece of their bridle, and they'll turn. I call it a turn signal. They'll turn in the direction that you're looking for. And then if, let's say, they're going faster than you, this is where a wiggle on the rope will help them understand, but I'm not asking you to go faster, or I'm not asking you to go forward. In this case, I wasn't asking her to go forward because I wasn't moving. I do everything from a standstill first, so I can explain all my cues to horses at a standstill before I add motion. If I add motion at first, then it's really hard for the horse to understand what I'm looking for, and then I just appear pushy. You don't want to appear pushy. You want to appear like you're teaching them something. You want to appear like you're having a conversation with them. If I started off just trying to push her around at a walk, she would have interpreted it that way. She would have perceived me as pushing her around, and what I probably would have been met with is pushback. A dominant horse will push back. Even a scared horse, even a submissive low man on the totem pole will push back when they don't know what their relationship is with you. This horse has been described as being the dominant horse in her herd, so all the things that she was doing made perfect sense. I really, really liked her. She was really, really smart. She does not have an offside leading, so when I did a little offside leading with her, she was a little confused. She did one of the things that I tell people all the time is if she thinks she's good at something and she doesn't understand what you're telling her, she'll do the thing she thinks she's good at. So in other words, this horse has mastered the sideways maneuver. So anytime she was confused as to what I was asking her for, she would go sideways. And I imagine that the more somebody insisted that she knew what they were saying, I imagine the faster she would go sideways. She's not doing it to be bad. She's totally doing it to tell you. It's like a great thing for horses to offer. She's telling you, I don't know what you're asking me to do, but I know you like it if I do this. I've had multiple horses come up with ways to tell me sideways. When I teach a horse how to over to the mounting block, sideways over to you is one of the things that they usually do when they don't understand what you want. They'll come sideways to you because they know that that is what you like. I had two horses that one was a Tennessee Walker that knew how to park out, and one was a Morgan horse that knew how to park out for shows. And that's when they stretch, they put their two front feet real close to each other, and then they stretch out from their hind legs, and they stand all, pretty with their head up high. That's actually like a pose. And it's something that I'm sure took a long time to teach them. So I'm sure because it took them a long time to teach them, and they do believe that they did it right, anytime you ask them to do something different or something new that they're not truly understanding, they'll park out. So the horse wasn't being bad by parking out. It wasn't like holding its ground. It wasn't saying, I'm not gonna move. It was saying, I don't know what you want, but I know you like it if I do this. That tells you that something's not clear about what you're teaching the horse. That tells you something's not clear to your horse. It doesn't tell you your horse is being a jerk. It's awesome that your horse offers you some kind of indication that you're not being clear enough. I don't understand it. Can you break it down a little bit more for me? And then you can help the horse. When I was done with her, she understood backup. She stopped going sideways. She didn't go sideways because she was being bad. And that's like the point. Like sometimes people, like if your horse has a go-to move when you're trying to teach them something or drill something with them, maybe take a minute to say, maybe she's trying to tell me something. Maybe he's trying to tell me something. Maybe this isn't as clear as I think it is. So I loved that she showed me that. So that's kind of my evaluation. If I can do some of the stuff that I've already spent with them standing still. So like this horse, I demonstrated how the turn signal works because I was able to get her to understand the turn signal at a standstill. So then I was able to show what the turn signal looks like when we're moving. And you can do that, walk, trot, canter. You can do that from any distance. So if the horse is facing you, so I did a little of that as well. The horse was facing me, and I used a turn signal. Like, so the horse and I are facing each other, and I used the right turn signal, which would ask the horse to turn to her right, away from me. I didn't ask her to come forward. I didn't ask her to go out on the circle. I didn't ask her to do anything but to turn her front feet across as if to go away from me in that direction. And then, you can utilize that. So then I actually asked her, I did a draw, which is when you back up, a horse is drawn to you, so they come with you. And that's another thing people really don't understand is when you back up, your horse is going to come with you. So every time you think you're going to do something from a distance from your horse and you try to stand your horse one place and then you back away from your horse and your horse starts coming with you, the horse isn't doing anything wrong. The horse is doing exactly what he thinks he's supposed to be doing because you're drawing him to you. But then people get mad because the horse came with them and they wanted them to stay where they were. If you don't have your horse knowing a stand stay, you can't stand stay your horse and then back away from your horse and expect your horse to not come with you. You can't. Horses come to the backup. If you back away, they will come with you. It's just what they do. It's a draw. So in this case, I used my draw. So I had her stand stay, and I did the turns to the left and turns to the right, and she was supposed to stand stay there. And then I drew her, asked her to come with me, drew her, and then as she got to coming with me, then I would try to show her, I want you to turn left now, or I want you to turn right now. And she understood me. If you start everything at a standstill, you can start to add motion. If you try to start things in motion, your horse will not understand. And you will ruin your relationship over time, if not immediately. I love evaluations because I love to see where the horse is with the owner. Like, I don't go collect the horse from the stall. I don't go collect the horse from the paddock. I go with the owner and I observe the routine of, does the horse come to the person? Does the horse allow themselves to be haltered? Does the horse see the halter, or are you hiding it? Does the horse, seem happy to see you, or seem like, you've come and I'm afraid if I don't come to you, kind of thing. So I watch that. I watch how the horse is normally led. I watch how the rope is held. I watch how the person's hand is. Is it active? Is it neutral? Is it pushing on the horse? Is it holding the rope way up high under the horse's neck? Are they holding the horse at the snap on the buckle on the lead rope? Are they holding the lead rope and the halter? I watch for all of those different things because I can determine why a horse is doing a lot of things they're doing based on just their basic handling. If the horse is crowdy, do they push the horse and reward the horse for getting out of their space, or do they walk with their hand braced against the horse? And in a horse like this case, she would only just push back. So she's just going to lean on your hand. She's not going to step off of you and learn her position. She's going to say, oh yeah, you got a little push? How about my push? They don't think like we think they think. So if you walk with your horse and you're pushing on your horse is going to push back. That's natural for a horse to push back. But if you teach your horse, you need to be over there, and I'm going to be over here, and I'm going to let you know you're doing it right by not bothering you. I'm going to let you know you're doing it right by staying in a neutral position, and we're just going to walk together. We're out on a nice, nature trail, and we're going to walk together. I don't need to touch you. You don't need to touch me. This is my spaghetti. I think of spaghetti. I think of Dirty Dancing, the movie, and when they're in each other's space, they go, spaghetti arms. This is my dance space. This is your dance space. Like, I always think of that for some reason, so that's where the spaghetti came from. You choose your walking path, and your horse has his walking path. And don't make the mistake of getting into your horse's walking path. You don't need to stare at your horse when you walk with your horse. You can walk. When your horse understands where he's supposed to be, then you can walk with your horse just fine without having to stare at him. And then now, speaking of leading, you know what? I'm going to do a different one about leading because I think I have a little bit more to say about that, and this one's getting a little long-winded. That's kind of what my evaluations look like. They look like I haven't done anything, but I pretty much can guarantee that if we stand with your horse after a session, it will start to yawn, and it'll yawn over and over and over again, as few as 10 times, as many as 100 times. That's great feedback.